All right, so we're joined for the second time this year by my man, Kevin Rainey with Napa Auto Parts down in Slidell, Louisiana. Um, Area president, I think, is your title. Years of HR experience, you name it, every type of business, nonprofit, corporate, just interviewed thousands of people. We thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a room full here with us at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central High School, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So we thank you so much for talking to our juniors and seniors today about the importance of selling yourself, interview skills, and being able to walk in a building and show that you are the best person for a job.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's my pleasure. I got a senior at home, so talking to seniors I know is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now, before we get into all that, just give us a little background about you. I know you're from the New Orleans area, worked in all kinds of companies, and didn't get your college degree until not that long ago. So take us through that whole
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah, no. So I came from a family where, single mom. My dad passed away early on in life, and so my mom just worked hard. And when I finished high school, I really didn't have much of a choice other than to go to school, not go to school, but go straight to work. So that's what I did. I took a job. Actually, it never hurts to network. I took a job that I had no experience, no qualifications for, but somebody helped me to get in the front door. So I went to work in kind of a sporting goods industry. I call it a low budget Foot Locker for a while, making back then. Well, we don't need to say what minimum, what was it, the minimum hourly pay was, but it was very low. Let's just say it that way. But worked my way up, took every opportunity. Every time there was a challenge or there was a project or there was something special that they needed done, I just raised my hand quick and said, I'll do it. And that gave me the ability within about a year or so to become the manager of the store. And from there, every time I go to a different job or a new job, I just take that same attitude of, I don't care, like the words you'll hear, not my job. Those aren't things that I say at all, because as soon as you say that, you've kind of given yourself the kiss of death at a company. So I never said it's not my job. So I went from that as a manager. I went from there. On a side note, actually went to work in this in a plumbing supply warehouse for a little while, and then I ran for mayor of Slidell, which is just outside of New Orleans, and finished in second place. Rather proud of that. But then I got into cell phone, and that kind of introduced me to technology. Ran a couple of stores there, and then I moved on to nonprofit at Audubon Nature Institute, Zoo, Aquarium. And then COVID got me. I tell people all the time, I laid off 750 people for no fault of theirs, just a terrible situation with COVID, and then laid myself off, and it took me into a new field of technology and a lot more into the human resources side. And now I'm a market president with Napa. So, every time I take it, I just keep taking on more challenges and keep taking steps forward.
Yeah, and with you being an HR person, you literally have seen thousands of people come either across your desk or in your presence interviewing for every type of job imaginable. HR people are so it's cool. And you mentioned this before. Trainers and HR people literally see everybody in a company from the top to the bottom. But you got to be the gatekeeper, and they got to get past someone like you before they ever step foot into the building. And that begins with their application and their cover letter
Yeah.
and their resume. So we're working on our cover
Yes.
letter now and talking about some of these things. So no matter what the position is, when you see somebody's cover letter before you see a resume, what are you looking for? Because I think you can tell from the jump whether or not you're ever going to bring them in by seeing how they write 12 sentences.
Absolutely. Yeah. If your cover letter is garbage, I don't even go to your resume. I mean, that's just as honest as I can be. And really what I'm looking for in a cover letter, look, I'm a terrible speller, like historically bad. I'm pretty sure I still hold some of the lowest grades for North Shore High School in spelling. But so if I can pick out that you've got grammatical errors, like blatantly, and I know sometimes we talk one way when we're with our friends, but then sometimes we think, well, I'm going to talk that way while I'm typing it out. That's going to get you nowhere. I used to tell my people all the time, I don't care if it's the 17-year-old young person that walks in the door, or if it's the 87, it's yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, because I've never met anybody that doesn't like to be talked to in a respectful way. So you write full sentences. Don't put spelling errors. Look, I'm not going to be the guy looking for commas, but I want some bullet points. That's your time to shine. That's your time to tell me why you are the best candidate. Why should I look at the next page of this thing? Because I'll tell you right now, I've been on the road all day. I started in Slidell this morning at 7 o'clock, and between 7 and 7:30, I can tell you that I looked at no less than 25 cover letters and probably only about 10
Wow.
resumes. And that was in a
Wow.
30-minute period. So and that's a thing to keep in mind with cover letters and resumes. Like when I'm sitting down looking at them, I'm not studying it. I'm looking for some key things. Do you have some experience? Are you able to write something out clearly? And are you able to tell me in a way that you are absolutely the right candidate for that job? And then I'm willing to go to the next step, which would be a phone call.
Absolutely. Now, we haven't really gotten into the resume yet, but I know that's also something extremely important, whether you're going to college or not. It's something you're going to have, and you need to have it as close to perfect as possible. So on a resume, what are some things that you're immediately looking for as far as yes or no?
Yeah. So one of the first things I'm looking for is what I call the job hopper. And look, I know you guys are in high school, but I want you to think beyond high school. I can look at a resume and see that you graduated from high school in 2024. So if you have 2 or 3 jobs in the last 2 years, that doesn't bother me, because for the most part, we're probably talking about Burger King, Taco Bell, McDonald's, maybe working some construction work or working with a family friend over the summer. So that's okay. But when you think about further down the road, having longevity in a position is really big for me. That stands out. I talk to my daughter all the time, who is a senior at North Shore High School, and she's been working at the soda shop, which is a little ice cream shop in Slidell, but she's been there for 3 years. And so if I'm going to look at that resume, that's the first thing that jumps out at me. A young person that has been at the same job for 3 years. And I'm also looking to see, what did they start off as? She started off as a busser, and now she's what they call a key holder or manager, low level manager. And so do I see some progression? That tells me that, one, you're not only staying there, you're loyal to the place, but also tells me you have the ability to learn and you want to do more. So that's somebody I'm looking for. I don't want to hire anybody. I'm at Napa now. I don't want to hire anybody that says I want to start off as a driver and be a driver for the rest of my life, unless they're already retired from another job. Other than that, I want people that want more, because those people coming in as being a hungry person, that means they're going to work harder. They're going to do more.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I just had this conversation with a few students earlier today about and you may be familiar with the work keys, the ACT work key certification. And some of them
Yeah,
are like, well, I don't care about this. I'm like, why would you not want to have that as an accomplishment on your resume? I know some company, I'm not sure about Napa, but I know Nissan here in Mississippi gives preferred status on interviews for that certification. Anything you can put on a resume helps you stand out. You may say, well, I'm going
absolutely.
to college, I don't need this. So, but when you do graduate and you don't have a lot of work experience, anything you can put on a resume that shows that you did more than somebody else gives you an upper hand in the interview.
Absolutely. Every single time. We are looking for certifications, and especially coming out of college or out of high school and into college, you're not going to have a lot of work experience. Nobody's going to expect you to. But if I look at somebody that gives me a resume that says, oh, I just graduated high school, I'm now going to go off to Delta State, then that's great. But if I look at the same resume by somebody who goes, oh, and by the way, I've got certification in this, I've got a certificate, I volunteered, maybe I volunteered at my church, Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, whatever you've got in the greater Jackson area. I'm going to look at that too, because that tells me somebody that's involved in the community, that's somebody I think might be involved at work. And that's going to tell me that it's going to kind of rate the quality of that person on paper. Now, obviously, get in front of me, and who knows, you might come in and smell like weed and not be dressed appropriately, which of course is going to discount you out. But you got to get in that front door. You got to get in that face-to-face conversation in some way, shape, or form. And that's what you're doing with a cover letter and a resume. You're trying to get in that door.
Yeah, and again, I know these students get sick of us talking about it, but being able to master those two documents can open a lot of doors for you, whether you're planning to go to college or not. Because, like yourself, if you can get your foot in the door at a great company and you're showing that you can work, I'm pretty sure Napa and like a lot of these other ones want people that are driven, that are going to stick around, and you can get certifications as you're going. A lot of these companies will train you in certain areas.
Oh, and we will. We will actually pay for your certifications. I'll give you a great story. Young man, he just graduated from Slidell High School. He's 18 years old. He put in an application, but then he took the next step. I call it the old school step, right? He put it online, and then he showed up at the store. Just so happened that I was at that store. So they were like, hey, somebody here wants to talk about a job. I'm like, well, send him back. And I saw he was an 18-year-old young guy I started talking to him. So we hired him in $11 an hour to be a driver to drop off parts. And then, you know, he learned a little bit about the counter. So he was able to start helping people there. He's been with us for 4 months. I just made him a job offer to move him into a sales position. And at 18 years old, if he just shows up and does the minimum, he'll make $60,000 throughout the rest of just this year. And but it's because he came in, he wanted to learn more things. And you think about it, $11 an hour, if he works full time, that's about $23,000 a year. So he's jumped from that to honestly, and this young man's a hustler, he'll make $60,000 this year. But you listen, is that enough money to go buy a mansion down on Magazine Street? No, probably not. But I don't know a whole lot of other 18-year-olds that are making that kind of. I certainly wasn't making that kind of money when I was his age.
That's incredible. Now, and that leads me to my next thing is that, you know, once you see somebody can put themselves good on paper, interview skills are vital. And I think even more so now today than ever. These kids are so into their phone and TikTok and everything. And that's cool. You know, there's celebrities I follow that I like. But, you know, small things, being able to walk in a room and introduce yourself to everyone, being able to look like that you're professional, being able to not smell bad, being able to show that you'll have good customer service skills. Even if you're going to be, you know, I always say, even if you're going to cut hair, you got to be able to have some sort of customer service skills. Drivers, we have a lot of kids that have become truck drivers here. What they don't realize is that truck drivers have a lot of customer service skills. You've got to be able to talk to people. You've got to be able to articulate thoughts. And especially, I know in Napa as an example, you've got to explain to somebody who doesn't know anything about car parts. So talk about what you're looking for when somebody's in front of you, when you're seeing whether or not they can communicate, when you're seeing how they conduct themselves.
Yeah, that is so true, right? Because there's stages to this, right? The resume and cover letter, that gets you a phone call from me. That's what you're going to get, right? If your resume your cover letter leads me to your resume, which then leads me to a phone call. Now, if I go to the phone call and I'll just start there, you've got to be able to communicate with me. By the way, if you're looking for a job, please don't have some message on your voicemail. I get it. You're probably not going to answer the phone. You don't have my phone number programmed in your phone. You're probably not going to answer it. But man, I have heard some voicemails that I just went, never mind. You know, click, hang up the phone. But have something. It doesn't have to be super professional. Just simply, you know, you call mine. I think it says something. Hey, this is Kevin. Unfortunately, I can't come to my phone right now. Please leave me a message and I'll get back to you. So I'm going to go there. When I get you on the phone and we're having a conversation, I want to make sure that, number one, you know how to listen to me until I'm finish asking a question. Because if you can't listen to me asking a question before you start to answer me, then you're probably not going to do that with my customers. You're probably just going to keep cutting them off. So if you can listen, if you can communicate with me, and you know you can understand the question, and trust me, they're not complicated questions on the phone screen. They're very basic. I want to make sure you have a really good vocabulary and a sense of, because you're going to now be the representation. You're interviewing to be a part of my company, but not just a part of my company. You're going to see customers a whole lot more than I'm going to see them, more than our owner of the company is going to see them. You're the face of our organization, whether you're a driver or you're working on a counter. You are so important to our business that we have to put that image out there. So if you can do that on the phone, the next thing I'm looking for is I'm going to bring you in. And I can tell you that I am going to start, if I know that I've set up an interview with Brian at 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm probably looking at my cameras on the outside of the building because I want to see, how does Brian pull into my building? How does Brian pull in? Does he pull in? Yeah, that's just, again, because especially if we're interviewing somebody to be a driver, I need to see how they drive when they think nobody's watching. But I'll do the same thing even if you're not interviewing for a driver. Yeah, it gets that serious because I'm watching cameras. Because if you pull in and your music is playing really loud to the point where I can't even think, you come in driving. As a matter of fact, I had a kid come in one time as an intern at the company I was with before this one. The way he came driving into the parking lot, I told him, go get back in his car and drive away, and then pull back in the parking lot. Let's see if he knows how to do it the right way. I mean, I'm very straight with these folks because you know why? Not many people are, especially the younger ones, interns, first-time jobs. A lot of people haven't been honest and haven't been very straightforward with them. And I'm going to be, because the real world changes as soon as you step out of high school. So, yeah, I'm watching to see how you drive in the parking lot. How do you walk into the building? How respectful are you to the first person that you introduce yourself to or say hello to? Do you shake my hand? You know, do you make eye contact? Because if you're not making eye contact with me, then you're not building any trust. And again, it's about that communication. How you're dressed, honestly, I've had many people, unfortunately, I've had many people smell like they smoked 2 bowls in their car before they got into my building. I'm not hiring you. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not judging you on what you want to do on your time, but don't be doing that right before you walk in on an interview form. First of all, you're
Yeah,
going for a
I
drug
agree.
test, so you're not going to pass. Do what you want on your time. I don't care. I love to have fun, but at the end of the day, work is work and play is play. So yeah, honestly,
Absolutely.
I'm looking at every single thing from the time you pull in the parking lot.
Absolutely. Now, and obviously, it's not hard to prepare yourself for interview questions. So nobody should be shocked on the things they're asked. But the thing that just drives me crazy, when at the end of an interview and you ask, "Do you have any questions?" If somebody says
Mhm.
no, how bad does that make them look?
Really bad. It makes them look bad because, as much as I like to think I'm covering everything, I know I'm not. And purposely, I don't cover everything just to see if you'll ask me a question. And, asking something that you might think is a silly question is 100% better than not asking any question at all. Even if it's just, hey, Kevin, can I go back and get some clarification? You said the business hours are this. Am I expected to work 7 days a week? But you got to have something, just something, even if it's like, hey, Kevin, what's your favorite part of working here? And even
Yeah.
you really want to throw me for some fun, go, what's your least favorite part? Because that tells me that number one, you're thinking, right? You're thinking about like, well, what's going to be the good parts of this job, and then what's going to be the bad part? Because look, I don't care what you're doing, any job in the world, it's got its pros and its cons, it's good and it's bad. So yeah, I mean those are so basic. You can ask that question out of any interview, regardless of what you're interviewing for. So what's your favorite part of the job and what's your least favorite part? And then you kind of put me on the spot to say something about the
Yeah.
company. And you might go like, oh crap, I hate that too. You know what? I don't want to work there.
Yeah, and also it can look good to have done research. You can say things when you're answering a question. Well, I noticed on your website you guys do XYZ. I think I would be good at doing XYZ and could add to this. Or I saw that you have this position. Would there be what type of ways could I advance into that position?
Oh, look, if you do that, you can almost write your own ticket. You're going to get a job offer. I mean, if you show me that you have done any level of research, number one, it tells me you at least, and look, you don't have to care all the time, but you cared enough to get some sort of preparation to look ahead, especially if you ask me, I saw this position. What would it take for me to go from the front counter to that position? Can I do that? What do I have to do? What do I have to prove? What do I have to achieve? I would tell you right now, you'll be like the young man that over just a couple of months, I mean, honestly, tripled his pay in just a couple of
That's
months. You'll be
incredible.
that next guy. Yeah, you'll be that guy next.
Now, and I'm glad you talked about him again too, because that's what I want to talk about next. Is that I think the one skill that is missing in high school kids today across the board, generationally, is the ability to speak to customers and sell things. If you can sell something, you can work at any company on the planet, whether you have a degree or
Yes.
not. So, talk about the importance of being able to sell anything and how that makes you stand out when it comes to applying anywhere.
Oh, listen, and I've said it forever and ever. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're because I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm tell you where I'm in Raceland, Louisiana, which is in the middle of nowhere. I don't know
Yeah.
anything. These guys in this shop over here, they bust my chops all the time because I don't know anything about auto parts. I mean, nothing. I mean, I know what a windshield wiper is. I know what a car battery is. But then after that, I'm pretty much out. But I will walk in there, and as soon as they start busting my chops, I'll go like, okay, the next two customers, I'll take two, you take two. Let's see who sells more stuff. And I will outsell the people who know parts every single time. And that's because
Wow.
all the way back at my very first job, I was selling something. And it doesn't matter, there used to be back in the Sprint days. I remember this was actually written in one of the training books, right? It said it doesn't make any difference if you're selling golf balls, garden hoses, or wedding gowns. Selling is selling because people are buying you. They're buying
Yeah.
you before they're buying this product. Look, if you know something about it, that's great. But it doesn't matter. My mom even said, I can remember as far back as 8th grade, she goes, Kevin, learn how to sell and you'll always have a job. And truer words have not been spoken. I tell people all the time, I leave this job, I'll be unemployed just as long as I want to, because I can go right over there and sell whatever it is they're selling. And I just know it.
Yeah.
But yeah, sales is an absolute amazing thing. And look, and you get beyond this world. The job I left, the company I left before coming over here, I had salespeople, my really, really good salespeople. Now, we were talking telephone, cybersecurity. We're making $250,000 a year. I had 3 salespeople on a sales team of 7 people that 3 of them made 250,000. The lowest paid guy throughout the course of the year was 125 for
Wow.
selling. And those guys can sell anything.
Yeah, and that all goes back to customer service skills. That goes back to interpersonal communication. Because I always say, obviously you're not going to get a sale every time, but when they are ready
Right.
to buy for somebody, they'd be like, "Look, I was really impressed with this guy. Why don't you give this guy a call? He can probably help you out." Stuff like that goes a
Absolutely.
long way.
Absolutely. If you can look, and it is a skill, and you touched on it a few minutes ago. You go. I challenge you to go to dinner tonight somewhere, and then just watch the tables around you and watch the number of young people sitting there with their and parents as well. So I'm not just putting that on young people. My daughter and I, we have a rule. We go out somewhere, phones go on the table, the phones stay in our pockets or what have you. But we will observe the people around us, and it's not unheard of to see the typical family of 4, mom, dad, and 2 kids, all 4 of them with their phone in their hand. They don't speak a word. So communication is a skill that's lacking. And if you can have that, if you can walk in a room and own that room and control that room with your conversation, you are going to make it so much further in life than the people who can't do it. And it doesn't mean, look, the world needs people that want to sit in cubicles and do technology work. The world needs those people. That's just not who I am. I want to be the guy that's teaching those people in that room how to be better people and how to get further on in life. The lack of communication skills in today's generation coming up it's unbelievable to me. But yeah, I could talk about that for 4 hours, and I'm sure these guys do not want to hear me talk for 4 hours. They're probably already sick of listening to me. But at the end of the day, yeah, that's so big, is to be able to control a room. It's huge. And controlling a room isn't just with your words. There's a great book out there that I would encourage you to read. It's called The Ideal Team Player. And it talks about hiring people with 3 qualities. Number 1, they got to be hungry. Number 2, they've got to be humble. And number 3, they've got to be smart. And smart isn't defined as, I got an engineering degree from MIT. It also goes to controlling room. Are you smart enough to recognize when you're losing a room, when you're getting a room, when somebody's getting angry with what you're saying, when somebody likes what you're saying? To me, that's smart. And if you can possess those 3 qualities, you will go very, very far in life. With the number 1 for me is smart.
Absolutely. Now, just a couple more things before I get to the students' questions. I've got some really good ones. Along with those
Okay, good.
interpersonal communication, I think that builds networking. Networking is extremely important. Now, they always make the joke here at the school about how do you know everybody, and I'm like, well, you got to put yourself out there. If because I've reached out to people all over the world about doing some of these talks, and some of them say no. That's fine. I'll find somebody that will. And it's amazing that some of the people have agreed to speak. I've had ESPN people, I've had Netflix actors, and they agree to it. I
Yeah.
never would have known if I had not tried. And me and you met 14 years ago, 13 years ago at a training session in Pensacola, Florida. But because we had that network and I was able to network with you, we're able to still have this connection.
Yes, absolutely. And again, but that goes to communication and people there. Look, I'm the guy that I can walk in a room that has 99 other people in it. I might know 4 people in that room when I walk in, but I bet you when I leave out of there, I'm probably going to know all 99, or at least they're going to know me. And it is about networking, and you can't be afraid to ask. I think even you had posted something a while back, and you were like, a couple years ago, you were like, hey man, I'm looking for these people, putting yourself out there saying, hey, I need some help. This is what we're doing. This is the cause. This is the reason for it. And I'm like, heck, man, that is something I'd be in for, because anytime I can help anybody, especially the young people, help them get better, I'm 100% in. But it came from, you're right, a small little room in Pensacola, Florida, 13, 14 years ago. But it's keeping those relationships and that network alive.
Absolutely. Well, I do want to get to these students' questions, and I got some really good ones. This first one is
Oh,
Gavin
excellent.
Griffin. He's Mr. 1A football in Mississippi. Recently played in the Army National All-Star game. Just signed to play football at East Mississippi Community College. Yeah. And he asked, when was the time that you messed up on the job, and how did you handle that situation? And I think we already know the answer to this question.
Yeah. I mean, which time? Like the 5 or 6 that I made today, or like going all the way back? But the way I handle every one of them is the same way. And the first thing I do is I own it. I 100% own it. It is my fault. I screwed up. But the reality is I'm going to screw up, but there was a reason why I screwed up. And since you, Mr. Griffin, you played football, and that's awesome. And congratulations on the Army game. That's pretty impressive. But, I had a coach back in high school, Coach Lambert. This is like a 30-minute speech I give to high school students more in person. But just real quick, the end of the story goes, Rainey, that's why we don't play freshmen, because you suck. Now I go back to the day where coaches could beat you on the field. So, and then we watched the video, we watched the play, and he realized what I did. And Coach Lambert, he said, Rainey taught us a valuable lesson. If you make a mistake, make it at full speed. So I tell my managers, and I tell my people, I tell my child, if you're going to screw up, every single one of us is going to screw up. We're going to make a mistake. But the only thing I'm going to ask you is, what were you thinking? Like, what was your plan? Did you have a plan? And if you had a plan, I'm okay with it. Because and this is what Coach Lambert said, Rainey taught us that if you're going to make a mistake, make it at full speed. But when you make that mistake, you own it. Yes. And in that particular situation, I was supposed to block down, but I blocked out. Right? Resulted in a touchdown either way, but own the mistake. But you know what? When I ask you about it, just tell me what you were thinking. And if you had a plan, hell, we can fix that. We can just adjust the plan. We call it halftime adjustments here.
Yeah,
So
and I think
that's my answer.
yeah, and you also have one of the craziest stories I've ever heard about handling a situation wrong.
Oh,
The
yeah.
radio story. So it's funny now, but obviously it wasn't funny at the time. So why don't you let them know about what happened on that one? Because you had bad customer service skills.
Yeah, absolutely horrible customer service skills. So I'll give the brief answer of this is I worked at a store. It was called Radio Phone, cell phones back in the day. And it was this was the busiest. It was on a corner of Causeway and Vets in Metairie, Louisiana. And it was at the time the busiest Alltel in the country. And to get into that store, you immediately had at least if you didn't get there right at open, you were going to wait for a really long time. And this young person walked in. I suck at guessing ages, but I would guess early 20s. He walked in and he looks at the list, and there was like 20 people on a list in front of him. And, the young lady, Robin, was working my customer service. She goes, just get you signed in. And as a manager, I was coming out and getting people from my office. And he started off, he goes, no, somebody going to help me now. And I looked at him and I said, no, you're going to sign in on the list and you're going to wait your turn. And he goes, no, somebody going to help me now, or I'm going to shoot up this building. And I looked at him and I said, man, do what you got to do. Because I was young and stupid. Whole nother talk about pride and false pride, but we'll just quickly say that was false pride told me to say that. And so true to that young man's word, he walked out my door. I watched him get in his car. It was in the back parking lot. He pulled out. He took a right out of the building, got to the stop sign on Ridge Lake, rolled the window down. He took a right and drove right in front of our building. And I looked, and he drove right across that building, and he shot right across our building. And when I tell you there was between employees and customers, there was no less than 40 people in that room. By the way, up to and including the woman who I ended up marrying, of course, divorced, but was the mother of my child. And I don't know how it happened. I have my own beliefs. I believe the grace of God just kind of put his hand down there and said, you're not going to get anybody. But there were bullet holes across windows where I had people sitting in chairs, and there's no explanation to me why that person wasn't shot in the back. Not one person was hit with a bullet. And honestly and truthfully, two things went through my mind. I said, number one, I respect the guy because he said he was going to do it and he did it. I have the utmost respect for people who do that, even though it was stupid. But I also learned right away that none of that had to happen. If I had just taken a different step, if I had just kind of seen what the young man wanted, and I don't know what the kid was going through that day. I have no idea, but I know that I could have lost my life. I know all the people in that room. There were a lot of people in that room that I cared about and loved. So I will tell you that changed my whole attitude towards people and customer service, because I had another one, old lady cut the top on my Jeep one time, but we'll save that story for the next class.
That's a good one. All right. I like this one. This is
Yeah.
Cornell Bacon. He's a senior member of our football team and track team. And he asked, what is the biggest thing you would say would cost someone's chances in an interview?
Probably having too big of an ego is going to be the number one thing. Because I can almost get past the way you're dressed if you represent being hungry and humble. But if you have an ego to where you think I need you and I can't exist without you, that will hurt your chances with me. most companies you're going to go and talk to, even if it's a small company inside of your community or a big national company, they've existed before you. My speech teacher, senior year of high school, Miss Walker, she said, let me tell y'all something. This place existed long before you got here, and it's going to exist long after you leave. And that's kind of the way I take that piece of advice from her, in the sense of, you come to me and you're a little too egotistical. You think we can't make it without you. You're probably not going to come there, because look, getting hired for a job, it's not just about the experience you have. It's about how does your personality fit the puzzle that I'm putting together as a team. And so I'd say ego.
Oh, absolutely. I can see that. Now, this is RJ Jones. He's a junior, and this is deep right here. He's got two
Oh
questions. The
boy.
first one asks, with the position you have you ever felt like denying someone's application could potentially end their goals and dreams?
And the answer to that question is yes, but no. I think that I'm put here. I think some of the best things I do for people's career is fire them, because I have to do that a lot as well. Because at the end of the day, my job is to make people better. Look, I know on the surface, my job is to make Napa a better corporation, but I'd rather make each individual a better person than I care about the company being a better company. And sometimes if I have to turn somebody down and I feel like that's a possibility, I will have a very in-depth conversation with them. I might call you up. What was his name? What was the young man's name?
RJ.
RJ. So I might call RJ after he's kind of gone through the process, and I might say, you know what, RJ, here's the situation, man. I love that you applied for this position, but I'm going to tell you why I went with somebody else. If I have a different position available and I think RJ fits the bill the best, I might offer him a lower position to bring him in the door. And if RJ is not interested in that, I might say to RJ, two things I usually say if I really enjoyed the conversation. I will give him some pointers and some things to work on that he might need to do in the future in order to get to where he wants to be. And then I'll also, and I do this all the time, hey, RJ, is it okay if I hang on to your resume? Because while I have somebody that fits my puzzle piece a little bit better this time, I'd love to hold your resume. And when I feel like there's a place for you, I will certainly reach out. And if you're available, we'd love to have you join the team.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, the second part of his question is, how much weight do you give the cover letter compared to the resume, or is it equal?
It's fairly equal, to be honest with you. I mean, you could have a great cover letter and then your resume be garbage, and that puts you out the door. That's why I say it's pretty equal. But without a cover letter that leads me to step 2, then I'll never look at your resume, which means you'll never get a phone call. So I'm going to go with equal, but they're both for different reasons.
All right, I love this question here. This is Shania Kyles, one of our dancers here. Actually moved here from Minnesota all the way to Mississippi. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. But I love this question because I like that she's thinking about this. She asked, what is something you would let the younger generation know if they know they are a person that struggles with being shy?
I would let them know that it's okay to be shy, but when you're sitting in that interview, this is the one time in your life that you cannot be, because this is your opportunity to tell me how amazing you are, why you're amazing, what made you amazing, and how you're going to make my organization amazing. It is tough. And there's a lot of times with people, you do this long enough, I'm looking at a whole lot more than just what you're saying. I'm watching every movement of your body, your facial expressions. Where are you looking? How long do you take to answer a question? Like a lot of times people go into these interviews and they think, oh, I got to answer boom, 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 boom. No, you don't. I'm going to tell you right now, you interview with me, I'm going to ask you some questions that are purposely asked of you because I want to see you think. So you may be a shy person, but somebody who's good at this and has interviewed thousands of people, they're listening to your words. But I think there was a statistic a long time ago that I had read that when you think about it in an interview, you're giving me a message, right? So that's 100%. Of what you're giving me, only 7% of that is the words that are actually coming out of your mouth. The other 93% comes from your voice tone and your body language. And that's why I'm watching that just as much or more than I'm even listening. So the words are important, but the way you hold yourself will tell me what kind of confidence you have in yourself. The way you look, the way you present yourself, and the way you respect yourself will overcome your shyness every time.
Wow, that's a great answer. Now, she did have another question, and I like that she's thinking about this too. She said, once I have the job, what would be the tip? What would be some tips to be a great employee?
Never use the expression, that's not my job.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
first and foremost, because that will sink you so quickly, right? So honestly, what I always encourage people I always say there's a way to be the new person at a company. Don't walk in like you own the place. Just don't. That's just dumb. Don't do it. But walk in, learn your teammates, whoever else is there working with you, learn them, learn from them, go to them for advice and guidance. And then once you learn your job, the very next thing for you to do is start learning the next job up. And once you start doing that, then when the time comes for a promotion, to be like, well, of course, Shania, you have that because well, you've already been doing that job. So get in there, learn the team that you're working with, learn learn what helps them, what makes them happy, learn what makes them mad, learn the job itself, and then start learning the next level. That's the
Yeah,
fastest way to progress.
and then I know companies would rather cross train somebody who's already hired than have to go through a hiring process for somebody new. So if they know they have somebody
Oh,
that can learn the skill quickly or has already spent time learning it, you have a huge upper hand in getting the job over somebody that's external.
Oh, absolutely. Because if your ramp up time is 3 months, somebody's got to come in and learn my company and that job. It's 6 months, right? And we already know what we have in you. And if obviously we like what we have in you, or we wouldn't even be considering you for that position.
I like this one. This is Dietrich Carter, one of our football players here, a member of our state championship track team. And he asked, how hard was it for you to learn how to network?
Um, I'll tell you this much. As a youngster, when somebody would come up and talk to me, now when I'm talking like 5 or 6, if a stranger came up and talked to me, I would vomit on their shoes. That my mom tells that story. I met a lady one time that I vomited on her shoes. And I'll tell you, for me, I kind of slowly got out of it. I stopped throwing up on people. And then I got a little bit older and I transitioned from 7th grade to 8th grade. Now, I don't really know what happened over the summertime between 7th and 8th grade. I guess I say I went from being the short, fat kid to the tall, fat kid. And the tall, fat kid woke up one morning and just went, you know what? I'm going to have some confidence in myself. And that's how it started. Now, I didn't know how to network. I had no idea. But what I started doing was instead of shying away from everybody, I started talking to everybody. And by talking to everybody, and by the way, failing several times at networking in the very beginning of trying to become a better networker, failing several times, I just kept getting back up on the horse. You to the point, right? You might ask somebody to come and do one of these sessions here, and they're like, no, okay, no problem. And then I just move on to the next one. I don't take it personal. Everybody's got their own stuff in life. Everybody's life is complicated. If that's not a connection I can make right now, hey, listen, that's fine with me. I'm going to move on over here, but you know what? I'm going to be nice and polite to you. And then maybe one day you're going to come back to me. And that happens all the time.
Absolutely. Now, again, man, they got some great questions today. This is Christian Mitchell, member of our volleyball team, track team, and powerlifting team. So she plays a lot of sports. But she asked, what is one experience where you met someone and you realized this was the career you wanted to pursue?
Oh boy, yes. So for me, I worked for a company called Radio Phone, which is a cell phone. And here I'll show a little bit of my age. We sold more pagers or beepers than we sold cell phones. And when I was going through training for Radio Phone, I met two people in the training courses. One, his name was Chad, still friends with him today. And then there was a lady named Tracy. And I hated Tracy. She was horrible. She was a trainer. I used to tell, and you might be able to attest to this. I used to ask the question all the time when I'd go into a training class. I'll give you 10 gold stars if you can tell me why I became a trainer. And of course, everybody gives you the typical answer. You like to help people. You want to do good. You like the sound of your own voice, all of which are true. But I became a trainer because I hate trainers. And that totally set me. When I watched her try to tell me, well, hey, when a customer is mad at you, just smile at them. And I raised my hand and I asked her if she's ever worked in retail in her life. And she told me no. I closed my book. I told her I was done with it. But that's when I said, that was the day that I said, I am going to learn this business and then I am going to become a trainer. And when I made that decision, and I made it that very day, I still have the little they did it in like old 3-ring binder, but like the cardboard ones, not even the good plastic ones, what they put the papers in. I still have that book in my office at home, because anytime I start to slip a little bit, I go look at that book and remind myself of why I'm doing what I do. Because I'm
Wow.
going to teach people how to have better customer service, because she was trying to teach it to me and she'd never done it before. So that
Oh,
was the exact moment in time that I made that decision.
that's awesome. I like this one. This is Cameron Murray, our Mr. Velma Jackson, member of our band and our baseball team.
Oh,
And he asked, what process have you taken professionally to become better at what you do?
I read a lot of books. To be honest, I told you, I think it's Jack Lancioni. Lancioni is the last name. I can't remember if it's Jack or Pete, but he's written a couple of books. One of which is called The Ideal Team Player, and that helps me out. But there are so many different books out there. I don't really read for entertainment. Like I don't read. I don't even know what people read for entertainment. To be quite honest with you, I think my kid read some Harry Potter stuff, and I know there's some other fun things out there, Stephen King, and I'm sure I'm showing my age, um, but I read biographies, I read history, and I read self-help. There's this great thing out there. It's called Disc Profile. One of the first things I knew I had to do was understand who I was and accept who I am. And so I went through a disc profile process where I let somebody analyze me, and it's basically, it's a personality test, it's personality traits. And once I got finished being angry about what this book said about me, and I went, oh, dang it, they're right. Like, that really is me. And I started to embrace who I am. That's when I became better. Like, look, I got TikTok like the rest of y'all, but mostly on my feed, it comes up recipes on cooking, obviously. But it also comes up with motivational. I read motivational. I read self-help. I read anything by somebody I have some respect for. If I have respect for them, be it a public figure, a sports figure, a business figure, I want to learn something. I can read a 300-page book by. I mean, look, I'm a big LSU guy, so I see Nick Saban as the Antichrist. But at the end of the day, I've read his book, and he's got a lot of great knowledge and a lot of great information that I can take from there that motivates me and teaches me. And look, if I read a 300-page book, I might only take 4 lines out of that entire book that I think helps me and fits me. But guess what? That's 4 more lines than I had before I read the book. So that would be how I continue, and I just continuously educate myself on that in that world.
Absolutely. Well, I just got one more. This is Deja Weaver. She's a senior member of our volleyball team as well. And I love this question. She asked, what is the most important advice you would give someone as they are getting ready to enter adulthood?
Just know you're going to screw up, because every one of us does, every one of us will, but have some confidence and have some respect for yourself. I think as long as you have confidence in yourself and you respect yourself, it'll keep you from doing really dumb things. We all do dumb things. I mean, I'm a little older than entering my adulthood, and at the end of the day, I still do some dumb things, but not so dumb that I can't recover from them. And it's because I have the utmost respect for myself. And I think that's where a lot of people lack in life. And, I don't know why that is. I have no idea why that is. But I think if you can respect yourself, then you will start to respect the other people around you. And it just goes, God, that was a great question. Because you got me sitting here getting a little emotional right now. Think about my daughter entering adulthood. But, at the end of the day, that's what we preach at my house is just respect yourself and make smart decisions. So that's it. If you can respect yourself from today forward, you are going to be nothing but you're just going to be great at everything.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we just thank you. Every time you join us, it's amazing. And it's just the fact that we've been able to do this after a meeting so long ago is just so cool, especially the way COVID's changed the way we do things. But before we go,
Yeah.
we're just a few weeks away from graduation. Well, we just finished our prom. I know the other schools are kind of in their prom season as well. It's, all that's cool and all that's fun, and we want them to enjoy that. We want them to enjoy these last few weeks of high school. But these skills that we've talked about today can literally make the difference between achieving your dream and being on the outside looking in. And it's not, I don't do it
Yeah.
to be mean. I think it's important for us to be realistic. So how important is it that they take these written and verbal skills so seriously as they get into this job search after high school?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it is extremely important, because at the end of the day, you know what? At the end of the day, does it really matter what Oppenheimer did? I mean, it does in the grand scheme. No, not really. It's not going to affect your life. Does it matter, what an isosceles triangle is? No, I've never really cared what an isosceles triangle is. But the one thing I do know that if you can present yourself both on paper and more importantly in person, respectfully and professionally in some way, shape, or form, you're going to go far in life, especially because today's generation, they don't have it. You know, my daughter's friends come to the house. I'm that dad at that house where everybody comes to have fun. But it amazes me the number of people that will come in. The kids will just come in and go sit in a corner. At best, they might go, "What's your Wi-Fi password?" It's the kids that are engaging in people. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to talk to anybody. Don't be afraid to talk to older people. You know, quick. I know you're running out of time, but at the end of the, my daughter came home not long ago. She goes, "Thanks, Dad," and I said, "Thanks for what?" She goes, "I'm talking to the janitor at school, and my friends are going, 'Why are you talking to the janitor?'" And I said, "Well, what was your answer?" Well, my answer was because he asked me a question, and he's a really nice person that I just wanted to have a conversation with. And that right there, being able to engage in a conversation of people, whether they're the same race as you, the same religion as you, the same beliefs in you as you, the same theories in life, none of it matters. But if you can talk to people with respect and respect yourself, you are going to go as far as you want to go in life. And God, that excites me.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. That's such an important skill, and I hope and I know somebody really got a lot out of this today. And we thank you so much for joining us, Kevin Rainey, all the way from Raceland, Louisiana. But before we go, I know we lost yesterday, but we got to get a Go Tigers.
That's right. Go Tigers. Or as Coach O would say, go Tigers.
All right. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
See ya.